at Metropole TVKE across all your social media platforms. Twitter's live. Talk to us. We shall talk back to you. This is your economic review. My name is Simba Elijah Charles. Here again, let me introduce the panel that we have to take us through Friday business today. In the studio, we are joined by Abraham Madagom, the CEO of Miradi Capital. Abraham, how are you doing, sir?
I'm very well.
Happy to have you around. We are also joined online by Tommy Wendell, who is a policy analyst. Tommy, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Simba.
Happy to have you around. We're also joined by Joanne Mwaniki, who's a financial analyst. Joanne, good morning.
Good morning, Simba.
Happy to have you around. All right, let's jump on to that first story for you this morning. And this is the headline for that story. Treasury has invited proposals on economic policy measures for the making of the next year's budget. Moving on, Treasury has invited proposals on economic policy measures as part of the next fiscal year's budget making process. In a statement, Treasury Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatani invited proposals from government departments and agencies, the private sector, non-governmental organizations, and individuals. Yatani says the proposals should resonate with the economic recovery strategy that aims at supporting sustainable economic recovery and inclusive growth during this COVID-19 period. Yatani says the proposals may also include measures on regulatory reforms, revenue administration, and any other measures that may enhance macroeconomic stability. According to the CS, there is a need to fast-track the budget process to ensure smooth government operations since next year is a general election year. Now, before we introduce views, let's look at exactly what our trend has been in terms of our spending. And we're going to track it all the way from 2015 up to where we are right now. And you can see general trend all the way from 2015, probably up to 2019, 2020. And we do know that if you look at that 2020, 2021, then it's going to be even bigger than 2019, 2020 if you factor in those supplementary budgets that we got into. Now, if you look at 2021 and 2022, government plans to spend the biggest yet they've ever spent. Abraham, I was told to ask you this question before I actually go back and ask you what we have for you on that script. Does it matter? Because if you go back to even the three financial budgets we've had, all of them have been constituted in court for being unconstitutional. Is this to look like we are following what the Constitution demands, but what we normally have on the final budget has to be what Treasury wants it to be, regardless of our views and the public participation process?
I think, yeah, you know, a long time ago, the finance minister would stand up in parliament,
yes,
and read the budget, and would be hearing for it from the first time. The current process is different because you normally have a budget policy statement, then people participate and give their views.
Yes.
However, and it's a big however, Treasury is the organ in executive that is mandated to run the budget, or to run our economic affairs.
Yes.
We are the ones who are giving them that. Yes, Parliament will have its say, everybody will have their say, but Treasury will have their way. And why will they have their way? Because, you can never run an economy through consensus. You can't. An economy must be run in a deliberate manner, and it must be done deliberately in such a way that we want to drive the economy toward a certain direction. Now you can see they're asking for proposals, but to me, we already know what we need to do.
Yes.
I don't think we need to be told by anybody. We already know what we need to do, and what we need to do is instill fiscal discipline, and then, so that we spend less and we collect more.
Yes.
And that will sort that out.
Yes.
The details notwithstanding. On the monetary side, we need to start moving away from the magical number of of 7. You know, at 7+. We need to start stimulating the economy in terms of the credit creation by starting to push down that rate,
yes,
as low as we possibly can. And you know that given by Kenyan history, we've gone up to even 1% and below. So we need to stimulate that from the monetary policy side, and that will have the effect of also stabilizing our exchange rates.
Yes.
Which is a lot of pressure, especially from the dollar side. So if we can have fiscal discipline and then stabilize our interest rate regime such that the cost of credit goes lower, then we should be able to achieve. But talking to the process, I mean, we can change the process anytime we want. We can make it shorter, we can make it longer. That's not to me, that's not a debate we should get into. The issue is, what is it that is making us year on year grow our deficit? I mean, collect less, spend more. Why are we behaving in such a manner that we know that what we are doing is not sustainable?
Yes.
I think that's where the debate should be.
Yes.
In terms of process, yes, maybe pressure is, if that's the case, then there are measures that need to be taken to ensure that they follow the due process. But as to whether it's constitutional or not constitutional, that's for the court to decide. But I believe that process can be changed. If it's too long, it can be made shorter. If it's too short, it can be made longer. If it's non-inclusive, it can be made inclusive. Those are legal issues.
Yes.
But economic issues still remain the same.
Pretty much. Abraham, I'll be coming back to you because now is inviting those individual and institutional proposals that might be considered in the next document, that is 2022-2023. Thinking of that, let me cross over to Tommy Rendell this morning. Tommy, the same question that I put across to Abraham. You hear what he's saying, that yes, indeed, we can get in our proposal, but the Treasury is in charge of that document. They are the ones who know exactly where that spending must go into. So our views matter because, yes, even as we are starting on the 2021 or 2022 document, we do know again that while we've rushed to court again to declare its unconstitutionality, does it matter, or, well, this is just look as part of the process that we need? Can you get me now, Tommy Rendell? Tommy, can you get me? All right, let me cross over to Joanne. Joanne, can you get me? All right, let me come back to you. Therefore, we seem to have a problem with that line. Abraham, now the other question is this. We are headed for a 2022 general electioneering year, and we do know exactly what happens in the country during elections. I mean, we've never moved from that cycle where everybody says, hold on, wait for it to end. That's when we move forward as an economy. You said it very well, knowing that you had this office that is supposed to give us that document that is supposed to take us into the elections and out of the electioneering period. What are those areas that you must address critically as a Treasury office?
See, the National Treasury has two functions.
Yes.
It's the National Treasury and it's a planning ministry.
Yes.
In one. So that gives them the leeway to handle the whole process. Now, we are going to an election year, and we know what happens in election years.
Yes.
So most of the variables and what could happen is already known from an economic perspective.
Yes.
We know that one, will collect less revenue. Two, will spend more, because just the election item alone is a very big spending item. Then we'll know that the economy will slow down. That we know. Why? Because everybody adopts a wait and see attitude.
Yes.
Like now, there'll probably be a regime change, because the president is finishing his 10 years. So whenever we're doing the 10th year of any president, there's normally a regime change, and most businesses will want to a wait and see attitude. So we know that is going to happen. So as a planner, you want to plan with that reality in mind, knowing that I'll collect less, the economy will slow down, and I may need to spend more. So given that scenario, and also bearing in mind that the new office holder of the top office in this country might come and expand size of government, reduce, because remember, the president has a lot of leeway in how he structures government, because
yes.
we give him mandate, then we allow him to deliver in the best way he deems how. Therefore, for me as a planner, I would plan with and especially using worst case scenario.
Yes.
In terms of if I collect the least, if I spend the most, and if business slowed it to its lowest. What would that scenario look like?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, Abraham, I'll be coming back to you. I don't know whether we have Tommy Rendell and Joanne with us this morning. Tommy, can you confirm if you can get me now, sir?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Fantastic. Tommy, same question that I put across to Abraham, and you could hear what Abraham said. He said, well, it doesn't matter. Yes, we'll participate, we'll rush to court, we will question their spending, but at the end of the day, Treasury is the one in charge of that document. Tommy, do our proposals matter? Because Treasury is telling you, get them in now. In fact, can you get in your proposals, especially on where we need to concentrate on, especially on that economy recovery strategy as we get into 2022-2023? Does it matter, Tommy?
You see, what he proposed, what he said is the old way of doing things, and that needs to change.
Yes.
Because people's feedback matters. This is why when the Minister of Finance asks the other government departments to come up with a budget, he has to go to the budget committee. And that is where us as individuals have a say.
Yes.
When it's being debated by the budget committee, then the applicant has to say something. And if the people within the committee and within parliament agree, they can see certain... You see the way we've added additional taxation on certain commodities that really affects the lives of Kenyans. Maybe the executive doesn't feel the pain because it has a certain amount of money that they need to collect, and that's all they see. They need to achieve their goals and whatever proposals they made when they were running for office. But now Parliament cushion them on wananchi like you and I so that we don't get pinched too hard while the executive is trying to execute its agenda.
Yes.
So as it's going through the budget committee in parliament, then we get that public participation phase where anybody can come in and say, no, we don't like this part of the budget because this is how and how it affects us. And before it goes to a full vote within parliament, this can be made. Because otherwise, the executive will bulldoze us all the way through any time to get its agenda through.
Yes. Tommy, just before it goes to John, let me just jump start or take you back to exactly what's going on, especially in the 2021 or 2022 document. Tommy, you and I spoke about that document before Parliament went back again. Number one, introduced VAT on LPG. We do know. They introduced a 20% excise duty on loans. That we do know. They introduced a 20% excise duty on internet and calls in the country. I do not think, Tommy, that any other person who would have participated on that document would have allowed that to go on. Same question, Tommy. Does it matter then if indeed those critical areas that we want to contribute on as a nation are the ones that are better done by the same house? So who has the power, Tommy? Our views or indeed Treasury and the National House?
I think at the end of the day, the Treasury and the executive will win. But we have to show law to be working in the sense that we can challenge it at any point in.
Yes.
But make sure public participation is hard. Now, once the procedures are fulfilled, probably the one who has a better chance of winning at the end of the day is the Treasury and the executive. But it is still good for us for things to be working.
Yes.
We can actually challenge the budgets,
yes,
go to court, delay it, and then maybe public pressure can be used to push Parliament to make changes that are in the best interest of Mwananchi.
Pretty much, John, same question. You hear what Abraham and Tommy Rendo are saying, that is important. But then at the end of the day, there's somebody who looks at that document and says, well, despite these views that are coming in, we have to drive toward this direction. John, case in point, we don't have a president who has to deliver on the big four agenda. That is the biggest promise by the Jubilee government. If indeed the views are going to matter, do you think that the president is going to have his way in Treasury and say, we have a government where we have the last final expenditure chance, let's spend somewhere, despite what the views are really driving toward?
Sorry. Thank you very much. First and foremost, I think that we're dealing with a different set of Mwananchi now. The Mwananchi who is more informed,
yes,
the Mwananchi who's demanding accountability for the resources that they are giving the government. So to begin with, I think that we first need account for what we have given them in the prior years, which I think has not happened in terms of, the process whereby the government comes and says, last year we collected this is what we did, this is what we did not, and therefore we need to up our expenditure. I mean, we need to collect more to be able to do this and this and that and this. That I think is first and foremost lacking in terms of a process that feedback comes to the Mwananchi.
Yes.
Last year, we planned to do this, but we did not do this because of COVID, because of this and this. Therefore, we need to collect more for us to see this and this completed, for us to build more hospitals, for us to, to equip our county hospitals and things like that. So for me, I think first and foremost, if you educate the Mwananchi on what their resources are doing, then when you go back to them and tell them, okay, can we participate in the process once again? And we've given them feedback of, this is what your money did for us last budget process. Now, we want you to contribute more because we want to achieve what we don't achieve, 1 or 2, 3 things. Then for me, I think the process now becomes more transparent. The Mwananchi feels like they have been, their money has been, their concerns have been put to account. They know what the funding did in the prior and what was not achieved, and why the government has to now come back to you and say, cough more in terms of taxes, cough more in terms of fuel, cough more in terms of things like that, because we did not achieve this in our last plan. So I think, for me, I feel that there's that gap. Every time I listen to the budget, it's not like, what did we achieve last year? What did we do? So we can say we need to now come back and involve us in telling us, okay, you did not do this. Can we change the process differently, like we're asking for proposals? So for me, I think that Mwananchi is not informed in terms of what money did in the past. So if we involve them in terms of feedback, then you can ask them to come back again give us proposals so that we can see where we don't achieve what we need to achieve.
Very much. I'll beg for us we move into the second issue that we have for you this morning, where investors in crowdfunding and online funding might not be happy with the new CMA regulations that will see them not entitled to claim damages from the state-run compensation fund. In new regulations released by Treasury, investors will need to sign a risk disclaimer absolving authorities of the risk carried under crowdfunding, as they shall have fully acknowledged as fully investing in high-risk businesses without adequate disclosures and surrender the ability to access the Investor Compensation Fund run by the Capital Markets Authority, CMA. Now, the new rules by the Treasury come on the back of concerns by investors and legislators who have constantly questioned the role of the markets regulator for failing to police the unlicensed products within the economy. Investors can only have recourse to regulatory support from CMA if they have invested in regulated products offered through licensed entities. Wow. Everyone, just let's go back a bit and really talk about this. But if you look at those rules again, they'll say that anybody who wants to come on board, number one, must pay the 10,000 license fee and a 200,000 regulation fee, and that before they are actually allowed to operate again, they have to look at the business model, whether the business is sound, whether they have capital adequacy, before they can actually therefore be allowed to operate within the country. That notwithstanding, CMA again says, now, once we've known that they can actually operate, we do have the regulated and the unregulated. How do we understand that?
Okay, I think if you look at these rules very carefully,
yes,
I think what CMA is trying to do is to draw a line between safety and danger.
Yes.
Now, how are they doing that? They're saying, because if you look at 3, 4, 6, okay, let me say when I started my career 10, 15, 20 years ago,
yes,
CMA, I mean, you could not go to the capital market without CMA. And why is that? The role of a regulator is to protect the unsuspecting public.
yes,
Because the unsuspecting public is gullible, may not be as sophisticated as the person who is asking for the investment. So you're supposed to go through the CMA process for them to say that whatever you're putting up is legit. And how do they, and how they go through the legitimacy process is to check your adequacy or whatever you're trying to do, your investment, your risk, and even put mitigation measures that if this goes wrong, what are you going to do about it? So that when they're happy with it, then they allow you to go to the public. Because the public, all they are looking at is we're putting up shares, we're putting up, we want you to put so much, you'll get this return. They've already checked it, so you can go to the public. What they're trying to discuss here is a lot of things that you've seen online. Things that come online and tell you, put X amount and you get this return. Now they're saying, fine, we'll allow you to do it. But we're telling the public that at the point of contracting or getting into this transaction, you will disclaim and say that I am aware that this, what I'm getting into, could go very bad. But I'm aware and I'm absolving you of your responsibility of being the police of this transaction. That, yes, so by not saying it, what CMA is telling you is don't do it. But since they don't want to do it, to go that route, they're telling you, then buyer beware. You're getting into something that may go bust. You're not saying it will go bust, but it may go bust. But if it goes bust,
don't come to us.
Yes, we told you so. We told you so, so you sign here. So that's what they're doing. They're disclaiming. Because see, if they don't do that, then their legal liability in terms of them being the police, they can never run away from it. Because it's just like CBK. If any bank in Kenya is open, if the doors are open and you walk in and anything goes wrong, they are liable. That's why they'll make sure no bank that is not worth its salt has its doors open. That's still, they're very quick to shut doors. Same thing with these guys. They are now drawing the line and saying, fine, this thing is getting sophisticated for us. We need to change our tact. We cannot control everybody, but we can warn everybody.
Is that where the conversation is, Abraham? And let me rush away from you and talk to Joanna this morning, just before I get back to you, Abraham. You see, what Abraham is saying is that we can't control everybody, fine, but then we can warn everybody. What is that? How do we understand that? Why not control everybody? Because you can control everybody. Joanne.
Wow. I think first and foremost, CMA is trying to, cover their, their tracks in terms of a regulator, in terms of looking like, of course, that they are in charge of regulation. But remember that it's not possible to monitor everybody, because like we're saying, there's so many avenues of investment now in terms of online portals and groups that are even operating per se in the country only. I mean, everybody is logging into them. So I think it's impossible for them to actually tie in not every investment instrument or vehicle that's being used, but it's easy to say, I'm warning you against this, even though I do not know what everybody else is. Do you understand?
Yes. John, so just let me cut you short there. You see, what are they saying? Are they asking people to, John, just let me beg your indulgence at this spot. Is CMA saying, guys, you can come in and operate, but then come in so that we can regulate you, because we want you to be regulated? What incentive is that? I don't have to be regulated. I mean, the best way for me to come into Kenya is to say, well, I can go in without getting regulated. Is that what CMA is promoting?
I don't think so. I think, like I said, it's actually practically, for me, I think it's not possible to put everybody in the net. It's a lot of work be done to regulate even the tiny weeny vehicles that are being used. Yet people are investing in them. So I think it's not. It will take a lot of work for now for the CMA to tie in all those other machinery or vehicles that are being used. So for them to begin, let's say I am warning you to begin with, before I am able to tie in everybody and regulate them.
Yes. I don't know. John, sorry, Tommy, let me come in as well. Tommy, look, this is what everybody is failing to understand. And if I may mention this has been brought to the light because you saw exactly what happened to the Cytona Investment High Yield Fund, where CMA said, guys, we're regulating some part of their fund, but this one is specifically, we are not regulating it. What comes first? Is it not CMA, therefore, to go back and say, can we structure the investment platforms that can be available in the country without stifling innovation? Yes, and then come up with draft regulations on who can play in this part, making it easier, but also at the same time, making it harder for Kenyan citizens to lose their investments. Am I failing to get a point, Tommy Brindle, from Abraham and Joan this morning?
The Capital Markets Authority, being a regulatory authority, has a duty to protect Kenyan investors.
Yes.
They have dropped the ball in certain places. Let's talk about that Cyton, just to name a few.
Yes.
Now, when it comes to trying to regulate crowdfunding online, that's a very tall order. We can see that they are trying to protect the consumer, but it's a very tall order. And also on top of that,
yes,
most Kenyans don't do their due diligence when it comes to investment. So, which comes first, the regulation or the warning? Your guess is as good as mine.
Tommy, let's take an example before I jump back to Abraham again. You see what is happening in the financial services sector. They said it's very hard to regulate the digital lenders in the country. They were even saying it's very hard to regulate a product in the digital services industry. But now, the Central Bank of Kenya, through Governor Njoroge, is proving, no, you can't tell me that. In fact, the biggest quote that he said, you can't come into this industry and say, willing buyer, willing seller. He said, no, that cannot work. We have to go back, think, and come up with proper ways to regulate it without essentially stifling innovation. Why is it not possible for CMA to say, look, guys, in Kenya, willing buyer, willing seller, no, it's either you belong somewhere and we're going to regulate you.
It is possible. It is very possible. I'll give you an example, like mobile lenders.
Yes.
They've been whipped into shape. And maybe one of the reasons why they've been whipped into shape is because the government needed to collect extra revenue. You see, this taxation idea of lenders. So it is possible to regulate, but it's going to require some clever legal drafters and some serious motivation to get it done.
Pretty much, Abraham, is that where it is then? You see what Tommy Brindle is saying? It's going to require some proper regulation and draft policies before you can actually say that in Kenya, should you want to actually be a fund or some sort of product that will need you to crowdfund online or through offices, this is where you need to be. So is that CMA not really taking up this responsibility?
Let's assume a scenario where CMA is able to regulate all these guys who are predators.
Yes.
And they tell us, don't deal with predator 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let me pause that and go to a comparison industry.
Yes.
If you go to the tobacco industry, remember we came down very hard when Madam Gilu was health minister. And we said they cannot advertise, when we came up with all manner of regulations. Even if you buy a packet of cigarettes, they are very, very groggy pictures,
yes.
Showing you how horrible that thing is. Have the sales of cigarettes gone down?
No.
It's gone up.
In fact, no, it's gone up.
The government has done what it could possibly humanly do,
yes,
to tell you that this product is going to kill you.
Yes.
And it says so and gives you graphical pictures. So what am I saying? At the end of the day, consumers will behave in the way they know how. So what CMA is they are reducing the agony of trying to tell people not to do certain things. Because people have already decided that they want get rich quick schemes. And that's what people are, and it feeds on their greed. And the human being, we have greed in all of us. So it just needs to be massaged and awakened.
Yes.
So in terms of, whereas CMA can regulate who comes in, what they do and what they don't do, CMA cannot regulate your morals. CMA cannot regulate how greedy you become, how careless you become, how reckless you become. That one is a personal responsibility. And we should not put that on CMA. So that's the line we have drawn all regulators. They can create the environment, they can put the controls, they can regulate who comes in, who doesn't, and what they do and what they don't do, but they can never control the consumer or who he goes to. Because being online, I can go to the dark web and still get to these people. So how do you regulate that? So at the end of the day, there's what the regulator has to do, which I think they are doing to the best of their ability, and there is what the consumer must do, and none should burden the other with what is their responsibility.
Pretty much. John, once we come from this break, I mean, you're just going to sort of end this conversation before we move into the last part. The question is going to be, therefore, I mean, if you are a regulator and you're trying to think about why CMA currently, by the way, has 500 cases worth $1 billion of lost investments that they're looking into. So you as a regulator, John, are you not going to look back and then say, what is not going on in the current market that is making Kenyans actually look for alternatives to invest? Case in point, have we opened up the Kenyan market really good that you can say, guys, even if we close the market today, just like Governor Njoroge said, he said, I will lock digital lenders in the country, but I know right now, when you go to a bank, they're going to give you that money. Once you go to a SACCO, which I'm regulating as well, they're going to give you that money. Has CMA opened a market enough? Have they done enough? So that should they start regulating and saying, this cannot apply in the country, then they can answer and say, these are the alternatives. Once we come back here on a Business AM, my name is Simbalaji Charles Kinyage at Metropole TVKE across all your social media platforms. Get talking.